I love Chicago, but my relationship to Chicago changed a lot when I came back from the Marine Corps. I did not like being in crowded areas. Like it was just too much noise going on, way too much. And like growing up in Chicago, like you get used to the noise. You get used to the train, the CTA, the sirens and everything. But I never noticed how loud it gets.
This is kind of like where I've set down my roots. A lot of people that I love and care for like live in the area. There's always something to do.
I like Chicago a lot. I like being up here now, and I'm really looking forward to this phase of my life because when my wife retires, then we're gonna probably come up here. So from the time I was very little, I liked to draw. And I remember one of my earliest experiences was I went to a Catholic grade school. I learned early on that if I drew pictures of Jesus for the nuns, that I probably wouldn't get my knuckles whacked with a ruler, and that I would get stars, extra stars and smiley faces and that kind of stuff. So early on, I thought this art thing's good.
Ever since like 5th grade, I'm just like, I'm gonna be an art teacher when I grow up, and I kind of pursued that with like the single-minded determination of a homicidal maniac. And like it is what makes me happy. And
When I was about around like 6 or 7 years old, my grandma and my dad gave me like a big brown box. I'm sure everyone has one when they're with a kid. Gave you like watercolor palette and then like crayons and everything else and oil. I started with that and a big sheet of paper, just went to town on it. Before I was huge into art. I mean, it was my life. I had a goal before going into the Marine Corps, like, okay, after the Marine Corps, I'm going to go to like the Art Institute or Columbia or something like that, get my degree, get out, and just like, man, just fuck up the world with it.
I was drafted into the Army in July of 1967. Back then, what you got was a letter, and it said your friends and neighbors have selected you to serve for your country. Yeah, that's the letter. After you got drafted, you thought, you're not my friends and neighbors. You might be my neighbors, but you're not my friends.
well, I enlisted in the military because like just out of high school, it was my senior year in high school, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. There was a recruiter who came by and like said like just the right things that like made like just the right amount of sense in my young mind, and I thought it's like I'll join the military to help pay for college. I did it like very like sneaky, like running around back alleys, like behind my family's back. And like one day I just show up, it's like, hey, I joined the military. And my mom was just like, you did what? I didn't tell them until I actually had like the contract fully signed and everything. And I was 18.
Both my grandfathers were both in the military. On my dad's side, I'm not sure what exactly he did, but on my mother's side, he was in infantry in the army though, and so I was like, you know what? And all the stories he told me from World War II, I was like, that sounds amazing. I thought he was like my John Wayne, so he just made it sound so glory and beautiful and just like epic. He showed me his pictures when he was in Africa and Europe and just like all over. So I was like, that's it. Like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to become. And so I think that's where it came from, definitely.
have to say that part of what got me thrown out of the Army Reserve probably was what helped me not get along so well with the regular Army sergeants like that. You know, I didn't like authority real well. I didn't like being told what to do all the time. You know, I was a very naive young man when I went in the service. I think I lived in a dream world, never thought it was really going to happen, you know. And then when I did get drafted, I never really thought I would go to Vietnam. Well, I'm not going to. So I lived in kind of a dream world until I landed in Vietnam, and then I think reality set in, finally.
Then I got a call the following morning at around 8 a.m. And it was my supervising sergeant again. And she asked me, it's like, well, are you sitting down? So, yes. She tells me, you're going to Baghdad. You know, at this point in time, it was this, like, very, like, I had this very, like, measured, like dyed-in-the-wool soldier response, which was, what's my timeline? So I tell my parents, I tell my siblings. One of my brothers was royally pissed. He had offered, it's like, you got a degree to finish, like, I'll go for you, which was, like, very, very sweet. And I like this sense of, I don't know, this, I like, at this point in time, I would say, like, this sort of, like, misplaced sense of honor and integrity is, like, said, it's like, no, like, this is my, like, I'm the one who signed the dotted line, like, this is my burden, like, this is my thing to do. And I think a part of it is, like, I don't know that I could imagine anybody else, like, going to do what I was going to do.
We were told, like, you know, like, we're doing something big in Afghanistan. We don't know what we were doing, but, like, all the training we were doing was, like, for a reason. So, like, something was different. Something was telling me, like, this is something else. Everyone was saying, like, you know, how's it going to be in Afghanistan? And, you know, are you worried about Afghanistan? Everyone was telling me back in Chicago. They're like, make sure you tell them that Afghanistan is going to be fine. Perfectly fine. I don't want people getting worried and stuff like that. Like my Marine higher ups, like my boss. So I was telling them, I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do. Just tell them that, you know, Afghanistan's gonna be easy. It's gonna be a breeze. Don't worry about us. You know, we'll write to you when we can, or call you when we can. And they all took the bait. When we got to Afghanistan, people were like, "Oh, hey, where are you going? And like, what part of the Providence are you guys going to?" We told them Laos, they're like, "Good luck." Like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? Like, everyone was telling us that, like, good luck, you ain't coming back. So we're kind of like, shit, like, how fucked up is it? And I was at, and, you know, when we got there, we definitely saw how fucked up it was. It's crazy. It was just, yeah, it was just, yeah.
Well, I had a good relationship with the platoon I was in. You know, I felt like you'd form a lot of camaraderie because you're all there for the same purpose. You're trying to keep each other alive. By the time I came home, it was more about trying to survive than it was anything. looked down and there was a VC wounded one laying there. You know, I don't know that I was ready, you know, right? Just you landed and boom, there's the enemy in your face. And the first sergeant told me to watch him, and if he moves, shoot. I remember that was my first impression, like, you're here and it's, you know, welcome, because this is what your year's going to be like. So at that point in time, I'm thinking that flunking out of school and quitting the reserves was not a bright idea, you know. Well, one night, I fired my missions, and the next day, the guy said, I want you to come with us this morning. And we went down there, and I saw what I had done. We got down there, and my mortar had landed by this Viet Cong and blew him into pieces, and that's what was there. And he had a letter on him that was to his girlfriend. It was just like letters I was writing home to my girlfriend. And all of a sudden, I realized, you know, we're killing each other, and we're the same, you know, because his government, my government wants to shoot at each other. They send us out, and we're killing each other, and you know, he's the same as me. It could have easily been the other way. And I told myself at that point, I was never going to fire a gun again. A mortar. I wasn't going to be a gunner anymore. And I did. I told the guy that was second in command on the gun, I said, you're the gunner now. I never fired again. And that probably changed me more than anything else. And that's probably when I became really anti-war and realized that when I got back, you know, it was going to be, I was going to make my views known, you know, that war's not good for anybody.
I spent a greater portion of my time in deployment on base. I wasn't ready for the snippy office politics of it all, like that somehow in a war zone still persists. It was possibly one of the harder sort of mental fights. Mortars were easy compared to dealing with personalities. At least from my perspective, there was no camaraderie, there was no respect. I think the hardest thing, above and beyond anything else that I did in the military was I basically served under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and I had I was a late bloomer in terms of coming out. It was halfway through my military career, and it was just, it turned into one of those, it's oh, okay, oh, so I am gay. I'm in the military. Fuck. When I got called up to deploy, there was a lot of friends who were just come out of the closet, that way you don't have to go. That conflict was, at the crux of, several different things. There was a sense of duty and integrity and honor of I signed the dotted line, the sense of self-sacrifice. It's just if I don't go, somebody else is going to have to go, and I know that I can do my job well, and I trust myself more than anybody else. And then there was getting kicked out of the military under Don't Ask, Don't Tell was another than honorable discharge. So that that was another. That was another thing that I had to factor in it. And at this point in time, I wasn't out to my family, so at that point, I was more afraid of my family and their reaction than I was of the possibility of getting blown up. There'd be people either in my reserve unit or people who are deployed with who it's just like, you're doing an excellent job. Like you're a good soldier. And in the back of my mind, that was always sort of like subverted. But like, would you say the same thing if you knew I was gay? Like that was always like undercutting everything. You're violating your integrity in the sense that like here's a part of yourself that you can't be honest about because it's against the law. This like accumulation of lies and subterfuge, and it just wears you down. Like it's incredibly exhausting, and I don't know. Like I mentioned before, it's something that I'm still grappling with. The idea of like being a queer veteran.
Well, we were all very close, extremely close, I think. I mean, you knew who that person was in the dead of night. You could just see who that silhouette is. You're like, oh yeah, okay, that's Paz, or that's Strong. When you went into a building, you knew he was going to do a button hook or something like that. You knew his movements before you were going into the building or out in the open. You knew where they were at all times. I felt at least like what I'm doing matters. That was the right thing. Yeah, that's what I think was everything was going towards. Was after Operation Copenhagen. We had cut out a couple of towns, cut off a, drawing a blank on it. Yeah, cut off a supply route we did that, and then there was Cobra's Anger 2, which we had to go to another town, and I believe it was cut off another supply route. But Afghanistan, I don't know, it took a huge hit. It was on Valentine's Day, and I was in we're doing a convoy and rolled on an IED, caused TBI. And then there was other IEDs that our squad was in the vicinity of, and I didn't know that can also be part of the TBI because I thought you got to hit something to get it, but they said no. Like if you're in the vicinity of like certain yards away or whatever, then that's gonna help the TBI part a lot. Like that's what helped causes it. I thought I was fine. Everyone thought I was fine too, so it wasn't anything crazy. It was just us, cut on the head or whatever, and just went on patrol that day. I thought I wasn't gonna need a service dog. I thought I was perfectly fine coming back. But my wife was like, you're totally different. Like something's changed, and she saw the thing from day one. Yeah, it does not feel like it was in this lifetime or anything like that. Like you lived two separate lives. You were born in the Marine Corps, and you died when you got out, or something like that.
We had communications back in the world is what we called it back in America, in the world. back in the world is what you always talked about. Well, back in the world, can't wait to get back to the world. So we knew how unpopular it was and everything. So when I actually got to come back to the world and landed in the airplane, my girlfriend at the time met me, and I told her to bring civilian clothes, because the first thing I did when I got off the plane and met her, I went straight to the restroom and changed into civilian clothes, so nobody would even know that I was in the service, because you weren't popular.
Actually, through incredibly, just some incredibly fortuitous timing, I came back on Mother's Day.
Oh.
So it was the best Mother's Day present I've ever given my mom.
Like the second you land in Maine, you start getting high. You feel really high. It's the best feeling in the world. It's the most powerful drug, I think. It's just besides that and combat drug. I think there's two drugs. When it comes to in the military, is that combat, fight or flight thing. The adrenaline pushing through, that super strong drug. And then when you get back home, the second you land in America and you're working your way to your base, such a crazy drug. It's I don't know, everything's just slamming at you. It's just music. Oh my gosh, so great to hear music. Air, I can breathe. You weren't breathing before, and you were. Just different air. It's different air. You see grass. You can see America. That's when America opens up. You can see it. It's just so cool. But you get to Maine, and there's just a bunch of people lined up. And they were just clapping their hands and everything. And then Vietnam vets were jumping out in front of us, giving us handshakes, welcome home, pat on the back kind of thing. They really were. And then I don't know. It was really cool seeing the guys before us, the Vietnam vets and all them, coming out and saying good job. You can't get anything better than that. Cause that's something you believe in. Is the guys before you, you look at them on a different level, and they're coming to your level and congratulating you. It's such an awesome feeling. It really is.
I've talked with some veterans who've come back from these wars, and I'll tell you the truth, I seen pretty much the same thing. What you saw and how you feel, I don't think there's any difference. Most of the time, after I got back from the war, I was in a somewhat altered state of consciousness. And for about 6 years, I was probably not sober very often. At the time, I thought, I'm just, enjoying getting into this hippie thing and just having a good time and everything. But I think I was escaping. I was trying to put everything behind me and kill any negative feelings or thoughts I could have. But I made it past it. And see, a lot of people I knew didn't make it past that either. They got back from Nam, but then they got into that and either overdosed accidentally, some of them. I had a couple of friends who killed themselves. And they were getting high a lot too, and trying to forget. So, yeah, I think I'm lucky that I survived both.
I had a bigger issue switching time zones, because the first 3 days I got back, within the first 3 days I had this, I would go to bed at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then I would wake up at 3 in the morning popping fresh. It was just good morning, and everybody else is asleep. It was Just this like sort of like annoying obstacle.
You know what kind of like annoyed me a lot coming like when I came home is like someone finding out like, oh, you know, you're in the, you served, and then you're like, man, you look great though, and then it's like, so you're already telling me I'm fine kind of thing, but I'm not. And you know, some veterans I bet are fine, but others are not. And like you don't know their whole story of what they did and gone through. So like I don't know, like that really bothered me.
After I came back, I was like, man, I can't wait to start painting again after Afghanistan because I knew what I was getting now. I was just waiting for my time to finish. So after work or whatever, I would just come home and I would try to paint, and then I realized I couldn't. My hand-eye coordination went straight to shit. So I couldn't draw a straight line if my life depended on it. Like that's how bad it got. So that was like one of my lowest points, was trying to get back to painting, and that was tough. It was very tough. It played two roles. It played a role in increasing my anger, increasing the depression, but at the same and the addiction to wanting to draw, wanting to finish it. But it also came out to be a way I can heal myself in a way. Certain parts I can like heal myself.
Whether somebody is dealing with extreme trauma or whether they're just looking for a place to stop thinking for a while and just doing, there's something very, very powerful about making with your hands. Being able to process experience through the body. It's been said before, but it's a way to talk about what's going on when there's basically no words.
I could talk through my art, and that's the first way that I came back and really started talking about it, was through my art.
I mean, you don't have to be an artist. That's the beauty of it. You can draw stick figures and yet help yourself out.
I was doing volunteer work at the Pittsburgh School for Blind Children, and this was the pivotal moment. I was working with a 12-year-old girl who was blind from birth. She made this amazing bust of herself, and she had never done it before. And there was so much nuance and tenderness and life. I still remember sitting there and thinking, how could I have spent almost 5.5 years studying art and photography, and this person who's never seen from birth just created this sculpture that was beyond, it was amazing. So I knew something else was operating in art making that I had never been introduced to before, a way of making art that I had never been introduced to, which is about kind of a somatic, an embodied way of making art, a way that's intuitive, a way that comes from emotional resonance or emotional memory. So I was hooked. I think to kind of boil it down, it's when people are able to engage in art in a way that helps them to tell their story, helps them to bring forth images that are meaningful to them, helps them to connect with other people in community when they're doing that. It's not just being in a room with a therapist. This is so much more about creating a narrative that goes from personal and private to public.
It's not like I feel like I got to keep it all inside me anymore. I can share it with the world, whether they want to hear it or not. I can do it. it was very good for me to revisit and do them and to be able to talk about it again, or maybe for the first time, not again, but I finally was opening up. So I expressed things visually, and so it was an autobiography, and it was taking me at about 18 up to about 36, about close to a 20-year period of my life there, and try to sum it up and show what it was like to be me, I guess. I think I wanted to show that I went from this naive small town Indiana person through the war and came out on the other side okay, eventually. Was the whole idea behind the autobiography piece. And not everybody did, and not everybody still does in these wars. But I think I did it partly to show that I did it, but to also show that it's possible, so maybe hope for somebody else who might be where I was in that blue picture. Maybe that's where they are now, but you can move beyond it.
The most recent project I've been working on is I found out that duct tape sells these sheets, probably about like 8.5 by 10 inches, and this like army camouflage pattern. And I started putting together, like I've been a fan of like fancy craft paper, like the handmade papers and stuff like that. I call it the silhouette series. These silhouettes of like different soldiers, like just from images sort of like harvested from the internet, like juxtaposing this very sort of like digital manufactured like material with this like delicate like handmade crafty like paper, and those function in the same way that labels do, and that they strip away any sort of depth that a person might have. Like all of a sudden, like you hear veteran, and it's just like, oh, or the same way that you think like queer or lesbian or like disabled, and like all of a sudden, like you have this very fixed picture in your mind that's like at the end of the day this very two-dimensional like shape lacking depth.
I thought it was gonna be fun and easy, but it wasn't. It was painful. Every sketch I did, every painting I did, it was painful. I always tore it up. I hated it. It was frustrating, super frustrating. I don't think I'm ever gonna be as good as I was before the Marine Corps. Not even close. It was devastating to see that. But I don't know what made me. I think it was just that Marine Corps mentality. Like, you're gonna finish this. Like, you're not gonna stop. And part of the pride thing too. Like, I don't care how bad it's gonna suck. I'm gonna get through this. Been through worse, so I can do this. But yeah, that was brutal. When I first got out, like I was a mess. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to act. Nothing. So the only way I can show it was by painting it. It was a painting of my dress blues, and on the painting was real life buttons from my dress blues and the seams too that we went right down it. And in the painting, it's there's like splat marks, kind of like just really quick dad marks, from in part of the shoulder outside to this negative space. The Marine Corps, has like that view of like they're just front, ready to go, perfect, ready to fight, just there. So I definitely wanted to keep that vibe there. I definitely wanted to keep that tradition with me too, for my life, for my future, and everything. So yeah, but I also wanted to embrace the civilian life too. I want to be somewhat normal again. So I want to make it messy, but with structure.
I think there have been ways that veterans have always made art about war when they've come back. Now, There has been this kind of amazing explosion of arts programming with veterans. Many of it is, much of it is self-initiated. I've been involved in the development of a program called VetCat since 2008. The program is currently housed at the National Veterans Art Museum. VetCat stands for Veterans Creative Arts Therapies. Throughout the years, I've been involved in a variety of different kinds of and creative endeavors with veterans in the larger creative arts movement that's going on nationwide. Veterans really feel like the creative arts programming is working for them. It's working.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I suppressed it and didn't want to talk about it and didn't talk about it, but I don't know that that was, I guess maybe it was good because I was moving along okay, but it's probably better to be able to express it. I think it's better. War's war, and veterans are veterans, and I don't care what war you're in or whatever, to have a place that they can express themselves is just a really great thing. It's a great thing. This place is awesome.
It's kind of like family. It's a place where I've connected with other veterans. You know, it's something to sort of like keep me moving and keep me going, like keep me making artwork.
There are things here that need to be said. Or books, I mean, the things they carried, yeah, it needed to be said. That guy can write. People in here can create images. I just think that it's very important. It's very important for the veterans. It's very important for the civilian population. It's very important for everybody. And thank God for this place, and there should be more of it. It's just good.
But to the civilian part, I don't know, I just wish they were a little bit open-minded about how veteran artists are. I really believe that they think that there's just one side. There isn't.
I've only painted someone patrolling. Something simple, something you do every day. I do all kinds. I mean, same with other artists. You just do all kinds. Something that's in their mind, they're just going to do it.
We owe our veterans the support to be able to re-engage in society in a way that's healthy and that they're appreciated and their story is heard.
You're basically sending these people off to volunteer, and they're doing they do the worst of humanity, and it's kind of like we put this sort of heroic lacquer on it that you're not allowed to question, and then we kind of expect them to come back home and just reintegrate. Everything is normal again, and we don't give them room to tell their stories. We don't give them room to share what actually goes on.
It's painful, after all this time, to think about some of this stuff.
We owe it to them to figure out any way we can to provide services that they can start to feel like they can reintegrate to an extent as much as possible.
Just help veterans understand how to be a civilian again, and to carry on what you did from the military into this world, and because that's the hardest part is the transition. It's never going to be smooth for anyone. I don't think it's going to be smooth for anyone. So I think the veteran art community can definitely ease their pain on it.
It's, like, why do we insist on perpetuating the things that create these, like, injured individuals, like people who are like, there was something else regarding like PTSD. Like PTSD is very clinical. There was like, I think in World War II, World War I, they called it shell shock after the Civil War. It was called soldier's heart. And, they talk about this idea of like a moral injury, of like basically like you've done this, like you've been put into this morally impossible situation and you have to make do with what's best, but then you're never given an opportunity to reconcile that. We never want to deal with the consequences. We never want to deal with the aftermath.
The veterans know what to do for each other. It's just the civilians I kind of worry about.
We need to pay attention to our veterans. We need to understand what's going on in the world through their expression, through their poetry, through their writing, through their art, because we're not getting the news. We're not getting the stories.
We say we support the troops, but like that's like sort of like the perfect empty calorie statement, because it doesn't ask how. It's illustrative of a massive disconnect in terms of what we say as a nation we value and how we value the troops, and like what we're actually doing, and like our actions do not match up with our words.
The pathology is a social pathology, and it's in the violence of war. It's not necessarily in the veteran, but it ends up being embodied in the veteran. Not only in the veteran, but in the people that they love and the people that care for them and their families. So the cost of war is phenomenal.
So when I finally did and produce the art, it was kind of like, wow, I survived those middle two pictures. Those two pictures, they were both, in a way, a war sort of thing, I was battling more in here, I think,
To like quote a friend of mine in an article, like the headline of an article that he recently wrote, "My friends are dying." There was a friend of mine, a friend who I met like through the museum. He'd been to Afghanistan twice before that as a soldier, and like he was somebody who I looked up to, and like he was just like amazing to talk to. He took his own life back in September, and it's like that. For a while I had sort of like ranted and raved about the 22 soldiers per day committing suicide, and like this was that statistic hitting very, very close to home. Like that it's because for a while I had this sort of like a mental disconnect, and it was, I think, in part like for my own sanity and for my own mental health, that it's like, yes, I was a veteran, and like 22 veterans are committing suicide, and like a lot of my friends are veterans, but they're not like those veterans. And then all of a sudden one of them does die, and it's incredibly jarring, and like it puts you in a state of emergency that like in the state of anxiety. It's that like I'm constantly left wondering like which one of my friends is gonna die next. And it's like this shadow that's constantly looming in the background, like in the back of my mind. And it, like, it's always there, it never goes away. And like with that shadow, you have, you know, the platitudes, like support the troops, the counter for valor, and like, what does that do? What sort of substantial change does that have? What is the material, like tangible change that has? Nothing. But we support our troops, so everything's fine. It's not.
I don't think a lot of people do know the rate, you know, that it happens. How many, you know, people come back and they can't deal with it. And it's horrible. Like I say, I lost a friend, you know, he couldn't deal with it. And I don't know, I dealt with it, but I dealt with it because I numb myself all the time for 5-6 years, you know. Who knows? If I didn't do that, who knows what, you know, what my mind would have done. And maybe it was a good thing I did it. I look back, I don't know, I think maybe it was a good thing that I, you know, escaped.
Veterans go to places in the world where the kinds of freedoms that we have, people are losing lives for every day. And the fact that our nation is as asleep as it is and numbed out to all the conflicts that we're in all over the globe is sad. Really, the only people that are seeing what's going on a ground level are military personnel. So if there was ever a time that veterans art needed to be looked at, listened to, highlighted, given a format, given public attention, it is now.
I wasn't real smart in that I could have avoided it, but I oftentimes think that there are things that happened to me in the service and in Vietnam, life experience and stuff, that I wouldn't be who I am today if it all hadn't happened. So I think maybe it was all for the best. For a long time, though, I suppressed that idea that, you know, that I had actually taken another life. You know, I've thought about it, and it's like, I'm still here and I'm still going, you know, and he isn't. But I am doing a couple pieces that are, I think, helping, and are going to finally, you know, I mean, I'm sure I'll still think about it now and then and stuff, but will help me anyway.
It is in those toils and that adversity that like temper who you are as a person. At least regarding my personal experience, like I don't know that I want to change any of that. I get these bigger projects that are sort of like huge sort of like time-consuming things, and then I started doing all these like sort of like smaller projects. Like it's these things I could do like in a study hall after like all the kids are down and doing their work. I could like pull out like a sheet of paper, like a sketch, and like make something that has like near to like instantaneous gratification. And it's like, look, I made something. It's art.
Yeah, I mean everything that's happened and stuff like that, and even the art side of it, even though it kind of restarting from scratch, I wouldn't change it. It's been like an awesome journey so far. Like, cause like, would you rather be like on a very straight path, like just what it's gonna be, or would you rather be on like a roller coaster? It's gonna be up, it's gonna be down, it's gonna be everywhere, just spiraling out of control. Like, I'd rather be on that ride than the straight ride. I would like to help veterans through art, really. Like, got something in their head, they want to rip it out and put it on canvas. That's what I want to do. I want to help them take it out of their head and show it to them, and see if they can do it through it that way. See if it can help them like that.
Surely there's a better way to settle things, but I guess mankind hadn't found it yet.
Yes, maybe we cannot affect something as individuals on the other side of the planet, but maybe we can care about other people in our community.
As far as like encouraging those like healing conversations, it's starting close to home, like with a friend, helping at a shelter, and taking the time to listen, and encouraging others to do the same.
Actually, most of us say something because we want to be heard and we want somebody to hear it. So then that bridge comes in, because now if I'm saying this and you're saying it and you're not, and you're just a civilian, then we're bridging the gap and you're going to be learning something from it, whether it's what I want you to learn or not. But I think that it will be enough that you are bridging, a gap, and that you are communicating, and that's what's important is the communication.
Art is a tool for that. It can be part of a bridge. I don't think it can ever complete a bridge, or that bridge of gapping it is just art. Art is the piece. It takes two people to finish that.
If we can help our veterans transform and be leaders in our communities, to help transform our society, we not only help them, but we help ourselves. And I can only hope that, in a very selfish way, that the public can kind of start to see that if we help veterans, we're helping ourselves, because we're blind. Pretty much we're all blind to what's really going on.